What, are you gonna take her first? Or?
Yeah, let's go Mom first. No, that's all right. Both of you sit there. You can both answer the same question. So,
You don't get off the hook.
you were fine where you were sitting. I got you both in there. So, Mom, what were your grandparents' full names?
My grandparents or my parents?
What were my grandparents' full names?
Dorothy May Wilde and Max A. Pass.
What did the A stand for?
He made it up when he went into the service because he didn't have a middle name.
That's what I heard, yeah.
What were Grandma and Grandpa Prophet's full names?
My mom's name, her maiden name was Burl Eileen Chapman, and my dad's name was Howard Benjamin Prophet.
Okay. Mom, where did your grandparents, where were they born and where did they grow up?
My parents?
Yeah, your parents, my grandparents.
Dad's parents were born in Kansas.
She said your dad.
Oh, my dad?
Well, yeah, where was your dad born?
My dad was born in Kansas, around Arrington, Kansas. And I'm not sure where Mom was born. I think around Effingham. Yeah, actually I know that, Effingham, Kansas. But she probably was born somewhere close to Horton, but that's where she lived, was Effingham.
And where did they grow up? Same place?
Effingham and Arrington.
They both grew up there? Mm-hmm. What about you?
My dad was born in, I think it was Ithaca, Nebraska in 1907, and Mom was born, I think it was Iowa. She was born and raised in Iowa in 1904.
And where did they grow up?
I think Dad grew up on a farm. His dad left to go to Wyoming to find work when he was young, and then his mom died when he was young, and he had 3 brothers, and they were all farmed out to relation, and they were raised. My dad was raised by Henry Jensen, and it was in Ogallala. I think he spent a lot of time on his youth on a farm in Ogallala. And Mom was, I think she was raised in Iowa. Her dad, I think he died when she was fairly young, and he was a civil engineer on the railroad, and his name was Alan Chapman. That's where my middle name came from. And
He was a civil engineer on the railroad, and your dad's dad was also a civil engineer, right? He's the one I have that degree from Iowa State.
No, that's
that's your mom's dad.
That's my mom and dad.
All right, Mom, what were some of your personal memories of your mom and dad? And what do you think of most, or want to relate to your descendants?
Mom was a real loving, caring person, loved you kids, loved grandkids, loved kids. She was kind of raised in poverty. They were raised during the Depression. My dad in Arrington, his family were a little better off, well-to-do, or not well-to-do, but they had more money than Mom's dad. Mom's parents did. He was raised in a small town of Arrington. And he was, I don't know, I don't remember, that's all I know.
What did both of their families do? I mean, they were farmers?
His mother was a school teacher, which back in that time was something to be a school teacher. And his mother then, his father left his mother and lived with another lady. She didn't get married, but she lived with another lady in Effingham, where Mom was. And then his mother had this big, really big, gracious old house. and she was the postmistress. And we would there as kids a lot for the different family occasions. We would all get together there. Her name was Rose. And Dad's sister, younger sister, was a school teacher and had rheumatoid arthritis and was crippled to the point where she had to quit teaching. Couldn't teach anymore. And his brother, younger brother, Poss, lives in Arrington. And his kids are Phil and Patty and
Oh, okay.
Debbie.
So there, Phil's your dad's nephew.
And he was real fond of Grandpa House.
Hmm.
Because his dad, Grandpa House's brother, died at a young age with a heart attack. He was in his 50s. Early
I could have
50s.
met him.
And
Is there something, what about, that Willie that died pretty young and
that was Grandma's.
Topeka? Okay,
That's George.
okay,
Doris's.
okay.
Doris's. Yeah, that was. Yeah, Mom had an older brother, Hank, who lived in Florida, and Hank got in with, started to work for Xerox when Xerox first came out, and made a fortune from working salesperson for
Wow.
Xerox. And then there was Mom, and then there was Rob, and then Aunt Izzy, and then Aunt Mildred. Aunt Mildred was before Aunt Izzy. It was Aunt Mildred, and then Aunt Izzy, and then George. And George was the youngest, and he died first.
Are there any of them alive now? They're all happy,
Rob.
right?
Rob, Uncle Rob.
Oh, okay, I was thinking, okay.
Yeah, Uncle
Yeah.
Rob. He's the
He's
only
the
one.
last
The rest of them,
family.
yeah.
So do they all have extended family that you're still in touch with and everything?
No,
Like Hank?
Hank's
kids?
kids, we were never close to Hank's kids. He made the money, and we would see him once in a while. We really never had anything in common with him. He has a son and a daughter, and both of them kind of were one of those that had too much. And both of them are living in the Florida area now. I think she ended up marrying a black guy at one point. And Chuck didn't ever do anything. Never really got in trouble, didn't do anything. And then you know about Rob's kids.
Yeah,
And you know Doris's kids, George's kids, you met
Yeah.
them.
yeah.
And Aunt Izzy's kids, 2 girls, live in the Denver area. And Mildred had 1 boy. Mildred and Ray lived in Omaha, Nebraska. They have 1 boy. And he's still in Omaha, Nebraska. And he's married and has 1 or 2 kids. And Aunt Jean, Rob's wife, knows all about these. She keeps in touch with them. And she has all that information.
Well, say something about George's kids, what you know of them right now?
Steve and Steve and Brad.
Brad. Yeah.
Brad's the youngest one, Steve's the oldest one, and Steve's a drummer and a photographer. And Brad, the younger one, has 1 boy and is divorced, and Doris kind of raises the younger, the boy. He's about 8 years old now. And I see him every once in a while. But that's about the only ones. Izzy's 2 girls in Denver. We don't see them much.
So what's your memories of your parents?
Well, my mother was an educated woman, which was pretty. It didn't frequently happen in those days, and she was. Her family was quite prominent until her dad died, and then she was raised in poverty also, and she had to put herself through school, and her mom didn't have any trades, and she was she'd been a pretty prominent person, her mom had. She ended up keeping other people's house and stuff like that, and and my dad, he left the farm in Nebraska when he was 17. He had enough to buy a used Model T and drove across from Nebraska, and it was dirt roads, and he supposedly had a job with his uncle GH in Evanston. He got here and GH decided he didn't have a job for him. He was that kind of guy. But anyway, he went and worked someplace else, but eventually GH put him in a store in Colville. And my mom had been a school teacher, and she was teaching school in Colville.
Wow.
So they met that way. And mother always told the story. Then they was running the store for GH in Uri, and she came up there that first year, and she had a car. And my dad didn't hardly have a dime. And she had a good job, school teaching. She had a car. They didn't have money enough to run the car, and they had to put it up on box. And she always told the story of that first winter. She said, God, just let me make it till spring and I'll get out of here and I'll never come back. But they ran that store from about 34 to 67, over 33 years, and they made a fairly decent living. Evan, but my dad was he was a good guy, got along with everybody, and my mom had the brains, and they were fun to grow up with. I gave them a lot of crap, but I survived it, and they did too.
Your grandfather, though, disappeared in Wyoming or somewhere.
Yeah, he supposedly went to Cokeville, and somebody said, or somebody said they'd heard of him in Cokeville, and he was never heard of again. And so, you know, both my folks were raised in poverty. In fact, my dad wasn't raised in a family, but.
Well, thanks. I won't put you guys through any
okay,
more of this.
turn it off.
They're gonna be scared to come over because every time you come over, it's the Spanish Inquisition.
All I'm gonna say is, we need a list of the questions so we can.
Well,
think
but
about
this
it.
is kind of
Well,